Okay, everybody, good evening and welcome to another live stream. And hope this finds you all well, wherever you are, around the world, in the UK, across in the States, wherever you may hail from. You're very welcome to another live stream from me. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk through in the next 30 minutes. So we're going to try and get through all that. Hopefully make it interesting for you. And as usual, try and talk about the stuff that the legacy media doesn't really want to talk about because it's a little bit awkward for them. So yes, good evening, folks. I see you all joining in your numbers. Paul, Jeffrey, Ryan, Alan. Yep. And hello there, Ellen Joan from all the way from Holland. So it's nice to see you. And of course, Chris, a stalwart of these broadcasts now. So thank you very much for being here. Do the usual routine. If you do like this, share it, like it. Make sure that as many people as possible, if you're watching this in Periscope, put it on your Twitter stream. So as many people as possible know that, hi Daniel, know that I'm live. So if you can do that for me, that'd be terrific. And hello, Sandra, nice to see you. I've got someone from Rich Hill, a part of the world I know very well. So thanks very much for being here. I hope you're becoming a bit more familiar with this format now. So I am live streaming across Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So there's three streams going out at the moment, and hopefully as many of you folks as possible will be interested. Spitfire Mark, all the way from the southwest of England, where it looked particularly sunny today, based on a video that my friend I saw Katie Hopkins doing earlier, down in the southwest. Yeah, I'm just checking out all your different geographical locations here. Kintore, all the way in Aberdeenshire. So you're quite a diverse mix, and thanks again for taking this time out. We're going to talk. Hello, Rose. Thanks very much for being here. I could actually see some folks joining from YouTube as well. Appreciate that. We're going to talk about kind of education a bit today. Want to talk about what's going on in our universities. Want to talk about what's happening in our schools or not, and finally, I want to talk about the furlough. Thanks, Chris, by the way. I don't know, folks, if just put this one up here. Chris is talking here about, I did a podcast interview with Alison, who runs the UK Lockdown Skeptics Facebook. So I don't know if any of you folks are on Facebook, but you should maybe check out UK Lockdown Skeptics. Alison's the founder. She and I had a chat the other night, which Chris obviously enjoyed. I'm also a moderator of UK Lockdown Skeptics now. So if you apply to be a member, who knows, I can have a good word for you and get you in. So thanks again for the kind words there. Hi, Peter from Stewart, Peter Stewart, another Dutch viewer. Thanks very much for being here, also via YouTube. It's great to see more and more YouTube people coming in. Can I say, if you're watching this on YouTube, do make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Alt News Media Facebook, make sure you subscribe to the Alt News Media Facebook channel. And hello, Sylvia. Nice to see you as well. And Tony, of course, as well. And thank you very much for your kind contribution to Alt News Media earlier, Tony. It was noticed and it was appreciated. Right, folks. And hello, Jill. You're all here. We've got loads of people. That's great. Shall we kick off then? So let me start off by saying that actually, before I get into the topics, depending where you are in the world, it's been a beautiful day across most of the UK, even where I live. And I was for a walk around the park and saw loads of people. Hello, Linda. Nice to see you. And Bella as well. Great to see all you folks. The first topic, Paul, is, well, let me show you the first topic. So just bear with me 1 second. This is what I want to chat about coming up pretty much right now. So let me just remove that. So you can see this. So Cambridge University has come out and said that all lectures for the next year, the next academic year, until the summer of 2020, will be done online only. So that's what Cambridge, which is, along with Oxford, I guess, are two most premier universities. That's what that's what that's what they were saying. So I wanted to ask you folks, what did you think of this? Because it did intrigue me, and I'll explain why it intrigued me. Many years ago, in a universe a long way away, I just want to bring your comments up again and bring them up. Hi, Kirk. Thanks very much for listening. Thank you. I went to university, and the university experience then was as it has been up until now. I guess you went to lectures, you went to tutorials, you took part in sports, and you had a good social life. That was the essence of university education. But things have changed so much over the years, and of course, 50% of the population now go to university. I guess all those degrees in media studies are so crucial for the shelf stacker in Tesco. Not that there's anything wrong with, by the way, stacking shelves in Tesco. Perfectly decent thing to be doing. But here's the point. So Cambridge University are basically saying you can get a Cambridge University education and you don't have to come to Cambridge. You can sit at your screen like we are doing now, and we'll do lectures, and obviously you do your exams, and at the end of that, certainly for the next year anyway, that's going to be a key part of your educational process. And I think that, hi Twitter Bass, all the way from South Africa. Nice to see you. Good to see you folks coming in from around the world. Hi Ashwar as well, good to see you too. So I kind of think to myself, well, hang on. So Cambridge, by the way, Cambridge University is part of a particular group called the Russell Group, which my old university, Queen's University, Belfast, is also part of. And I suspect that many of them will now do this. So I suspect many universities for the next year are going to say to the students, we're going to charge you the same amount of money, but you don't have to come to university. Just sit behind your screen and knock yourself out. So I kind of have to say, folks, that I think this is kind of ludicrous. I really can't work out what this means. I mean, what it says to me is that why would you go to university? Because you're not going to get, you're not going to get the. Jill says, I work in education and it's a lefty problem. Oh, most definitely, Jill. Education and at all levels, but most particularly, I guess, certainly tertiary education, but secondary education as well, is Paul says it right. Here's a good comment. Let me put this up. It's a great gig being a lecturer. Sit at home in your pajamas on full pay. What's not to like about that? Well, of course, Paul, what I would say is that, yeah, that's fine. If you want to sit at home in your pajamas and give lectures, fair enough. But I'm not going to be paying $9.5 grand a year for it. I'll pay maybe 50 quid a year or 100 quid a year. And of course, if this happens, the university's income stream is going to collapse. So for me, what this does is, will this mean that students now, I mean, once upon a time, we were all young. We were all 17. Maybe look, some of us, that was the age at which I looked to considered go to university. And so, will those kids now in May 2020, as they look forward to next academic year, will they think, what's the point in going to university? I'm not going to be with my friends. I'm going to be sitting at home. I'm going to be doing online courses. There's no social life because there's no pubs, there's no clubs, there's no nothing open. So, here's an interesting one. So Ashwar, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, by the way. My apologies for my pronunciation if I'm not. Ashwar says, I'm a Queen's University student. I suspect it will follow suit. Well, congratulations, first of all, for your fellow Queen's student, as I was a long time ago. And I suspect they will follow as well. And, why would you pay $9.5 grand a year just to have online lectures? I mean, if you want to do that, go to the Open University. And if enough students were to do that, the income for the big universities would go through the floor. If that income goes through the floor, how do they fund all those lecturers, as Paul pointed out earlier, in their pajamas, streaming their lectures to the world? The answer is they can't. So, there are some fundamental issues here that that are going to come out of this one. And yes, Paul, you're right. Everyone has a degree nowadays. It totally has diminished the value. I was fortunate enough to go, as Paul says, degrees are, to a large degree, pretty worthless. And that's because Tony Blair forced so many people into academia. Now, universities love that because they got filthy rich on the back of it. But education and degrees have become devalued to the point where they're almost entirely worthless. When I went, around about 10% of the population went to university, so it had some kind of a value. But that was a long time ago, and things have changed. I know the world's moved on from then, and it always sounds very old-fashioned if you sort of gripe about the past and say, "Oh, it was so much better then." But in some ways, it was. I mean, I just think that fundamentally, here's a great comment here: go to uni, come out in a 50 grand debt, madness. Absolutely right. 100% agree with you, and yet it happens, and this was the Labour experiment, wasn't it? So in this strange world that the universities are proposing for the next year anyway, what you do is you'd go to university by staying at home. Good luck, and you pay 9.5 grand for that. Does anyone actually think that is? Will the kids go with that? I wonder. Because I reckon, and this is just a suspicion, Jill's right, by the way. Here's a good comment here. Get a degree, work in Tesco. Not that, Jill, there's nothing wrong, of course, in working with Tesco, but you don't have to go into 30 grand or 50 grand of debt once you've added, accommodation fees and stuff. You don't need to incur that level of debt to go and work in Tesco's. So I kind of think that Sylvia is saying, here's another interesting comment. None of the kids I know will go. Sylvia, I hope you're right. And the reason I hope you're right is I think the greedy, rapacious universities need to be taught a lesson themselves. And the lesson is you got to present value for money. So what I'd like to see is fewer kids going to uni. I would like to see the unis not charging anything like what they do at the moment. I'd like to see the useless degrees removed and axed. I'd like to see some of the fat cat chancellors and vice chancellors and senior academics have their salaries dramatically removed. I'd like to see all that. And maybe this might be accidentally the start of it. They think they can get away with it. They think they can continue to charge the kids for a third-rate education via the computer. And the kids don't even get to go out to the pub at night. What happens to all the students that haven't finished this year? Do they? Yeah, Chris, excellent question. I was only discussing that earlier today. I have no idea what's happening. In fact, we do have a Queen's student on. So if you are currently at university, your lessons I presume the lectures are being done remotely. I presume the university is charging full whack. So if anyone's on, if they can let us know on that, would be really interesting to know as well. Okay, so that's universities, folks. I've said my piece, but I would like to most definitely see change in the area of universities. Tony Blair ruined so much, and one of the things he ruined was university. And actually, I mustn't let this comment go without speaking. University, further indoctrination. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. Universities are bastions of Marxism, actually, cultural Marxism. And therefore, I think they're very dangerous places for young minds, young, impressionable minds, who are being given all kinds of things to work on and think about with a decided left-wing slant, which I think is very, very, very wrong. Actually, Ashworth saying here, just wanted to share this, folks, with you. my meeting with my supervisor is done remotely. So it's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, I wanted to, so talking of schools anyway, and indeed, I see you folks get this. It's brainwashing, it is indoctrination, and above all, it is, of course, cultural Marxism. Well then, folks, talking of Marxism, I wanted to move on to this. So, you will be aware that Boris told us just last week that it was his plan that, all things being equal, schools would open on the 1st of June, certainly in the early years, to get kids back in class. So we were told that last week. And now today we read that ministers may not be able to get the schools back on the 1st of June. Oh, what a surprise. Look, on this one here, it's perfectly obvious that there's the teaching unions are very reluctant to allow their members back. So there's that factor. Initially, the BMA backed them, and now the BMA says that they believe that as long as the right measures are put in place, then the schools can go back. So we have a kind of a split in the country. It looks like those areas where there's conservative councils, they will see schools returning on the 1st of June. And in those areas where there are, sorry, bringing your comments back, folks, where there, by the way, sorry, I mustn't let this comment go without letting you see it. The BMA is a union. You're absolutely right. And people seem to think that the BMA is some sort of, godlike body that speaks with absolute authority. No, it's not. It's kept in place by the dues of its membership. It's the teacher. It's the doctors' trade union. Simple as that. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I can understand why there could be some legit concerns. And actually, Sylvia's brought up, let me share this thought with you. And this is where I do have sympathy. That 15 children in hospital in France after opening the schools. Were those kids infected by coronavirus? I don't know. But one of the things, Sylvia, I did see, I think the idea of, I've seen pictures of the primary schools in France where the teachers are wearing masks. And okay, the kids aren't, but the teachers are. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't seem right to me. I think that's kind of disturbing. So I don't know how this is all going to work. Well, when some of these primary schools kick back in the next couple of weeks, are we going to see masked teachers? Are we going to see scared kids? How's it going to work with, at so many levels? I just don't think this can work with social distancing. This is my issue. I completely oppose social distancing. I'm a heretic. Well, I am. I think that social distancing is fundamentally such a bad idea. It's impractical. It can't work. And Kim actually made a good point back there. Actually, Kim says Boris says a lot, but he doesn't deliver. Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think for me, Boris is a busted flush. Certainly since he got the coronavirus COVID-19 infection. So are these schools going to go back? What are they going to look like? These are all legitimate questions, aren't they? Sylvia's saying, would you send yours to school? Yes, I absolutely would send my kids to school. Absolutely. Kids are safe. They will not infect each other. I do not believe that there's any known instance, and I could be corrected, where a young child has infected another young child. It's never happened. I don't see why it would happen. So, on this one, I am quite bullish, Sylvia. I would send my kids tomorrow, but then again, I oppose the lockdown entirely. So let's be clear on that one, where I come from. So we, so this is going to play out in the next week or two. I think the teaching unions, by the way, let's be clear. Let's just be honest, shall we? Many of the teaching trade unions are stacked with labour activists. So they've got a political agenda. It's not all about the well-being or the education of the children. And another thing, by the way, I mean, I'm glad that others agree. Jill says that she also opposes a lockdown, and I mean, people are entitled to take an opinion one way or the other. But even if you supported the lockdown originally, surely to goodness you see now that there's no need for it. London today had 0 new cases of coronavirus. London is still going to be in lockdown. Now, alt facts brings up an interesting point. Would removing the furlough for teachers see a change in stance? Well, I mean, it's a point of view you raise. Other workers have been furloughed, and after a little while, I think they are quite keen to get back. I'm not sure how many teachers have been furloughed. None, I suspect. But we're going to talk about the furlough in a minute, actually, because the furlough is one of the worst things the government should have done. For all the right reasons, it done exactly the wrong thing. So I'm going to chat about that in a minute. But a question for you all, folks, with regard to the kids in school. So as I say, I went for a walk there not so many hours ago, around a very large park with a lake, very nice, and it was full of young kids. So my question, this was mid-afternoon. So if these kids were in the park, they weren't being given lessons, were they? So if they're not being given lessons, in what way are they being educated? And how does this fit in with the notion that education is somehow just continuing as normal, except by remote lessons? I don't actually think that is the case. And then Spitfire Mark says, I'm against the lockdown. All able-bodied people should be at work. Well, do you agree with Mark? And then Jed says, let's remember, furlough for teachers is not 80%, but 100%. Well, of course, Jed, that's an excellent point. And this is one of the my problems with the public sector. Because of their statutory pay, if they're furloughed, then the state has to make up the balance. So this is actually going to lead us nicely. Excellent. This leads us nicely. Chris asks, did I hear the Labour Mayor on with Julia Hartley-Brewer? I did. This is the Labour Mayor of Bury, I think you're talking about. I did hear him on with Julia. And it's perfectly obvious that, I mean, it's pure, it's entirely, hi, James. Good afternoon from Washington. Thanks for being here for part of the show. Of course, you can watch it in replay as well, but it's nice to see you. It's politics that some of these teachers and trade unions are playing. Politics with education. They don't give a toss about kids' education in some instances. I think it's reasonable to say that. Anyway, let's talk about the biggie, and it's this one. So the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, is preparing to wind down the coronavirus furlough scheme from July. So from July, let me just tighten this up. He is he's looking to wind it down. Why is he trying to do that? Oh, okay. Look, here, sorry, folks. I can't let this one go. Simon says he's from Bury and the council are clowns. I rest my case. Thank you very much, Simon, for your interesting comment. If when a local person speaks, you got to respect what they say. So the Chancellor is going to have to wind up the furlough much quicker than had been talked about. And it's interesting because if you read his logic, what it comes down to is that the government fears people have become addicted to the furlough. And they absolutely have. What's not to like about being either on 80 or 100% of your full pay, but you don't work? Why would anyone want to give that up? They clearly won't. And this is the fundamental issue we have. We've got a nation addicted to being on permanent holiday, but yet receiving a large chunk of their salary, even as their costs go down. And some of them, their mortgages may be on a mortgage holiday. Interest rates are dropping through almost going negative. So, I mean, the consequence of this is the one that, I'm just going to bring this up, that Chris points out. Mass unemployment and redundancy is to come, absolutely to come. And also, I mean, again, Unibonder's right. This is a socialist dream. We're getting Jeremy Corbyn's vision, having voted for a Conservative government. The furlough idea, I understand. I totally get why the government did it. They thought that if they just closed business down instantly, then what would happen would be millions would go to the dole queues immediately. So the furlough stopped that happening until the furlough ends. Now, I'm aware of many large companies, big employers in the UK, and medium-sized as well, who the day and hour this furlough scheme finishes, they're going to close down because they don't have a business anymore. And because of social distancing, they're never going to have a business. And Rose is absolutely right. Rose says the lockdown is going to cause much more suffering and death than the virus. Absolutely right, Rose. The cure for coronavirus that the government has decided upon is so much worse than coronavirus. And as I've talked previously, you're going to see suicide levels, depression, people without a job, hopelessness, all that is coming like a train in your direction. You've seen just a taste of it in the unemployment figures, but it's going to get worse. So the Chancellor did this to try and stop those companies immediately going bust. You've seen today Rolls-Royce are laying off 9,000 people. I read earlier that who else was going to leave? Another company was wanting to look at laying off 2,500 people. It's across the board, and it's going to get worse. And actually, yes, a great comment, Allfax. Many furloughed workers don't realize they are already. Sadly, you're so right. That is unfortunately the awful truth, but it's politically expedient. But the Chancellor is running up mouth-watering levels of economic debt. And debt, folks, has to be paid back. And the only way to fund the furlough is to raise taxes, increase VAT, and impose austerity. I saw the Archbishop of Canterbury, a remarkably, let's call him naive to be polite, word, saying that under no circumstances must there be any austerity post-coronavirus. Heads up, Justin Welby. The country's debt is gone to a historical high. That means there has to be austerity. Don't you understand? Do lefties not fundamentally understand that? There's an interesting comment, by the way. I know a 75-year-old psychiatrist who's been asked to return to work. I'm sure he'll be very busy. But lefties, don't you understand that, money has to come from somewhere? Contrary to what Jeremy Corbyn says, there is no magic money tree. You can't shake it down. And so we need to furlough the furlough. We need to, and to be fair, what we need to do is to allow business to open again. Let the pubs, let the restaurants, let the hotel sector, let the tourism sector, let all manufacturing, let's get things back to normal. Because we simply can't carry on. And actually, again, your comments are so fantastic. Rose says, the few people who are still working are going to bear the financial burden of this, and some of it will be passed on to our children. Well, actually, Rose, I think it'll be also passed on to our grandchildren, such as the severity of what the debt. So we absolutely really must. Okay, some of your comments, I have to comment on some of these. They're great. Any thoughts on the cretinous Richard Burgon? He's demanding 100% of wages on furlough. I mean, Richard Burgon, honestly, Richard Burgon's the kind of guy that makes Diane Abbott look smart. Yeah. That's fundamentally what I have to say about Richard Burgon. He lives in clown world, but then so does a big chunk of the political class on the left. I think those on the right and the Conservatives, they must know what they're doing, but they must understand that they have wrecked our economy, and there's going to be consequences to this, political consequences as well. I think when many conservative-minded people look around and say, but how did our conservative government do this to us? And, I'd like to know what the answer is. Anyway, folks, the 30 minutes rattles by very quickly. Wanted to thank you for being here. Thanks for your comments. which are always fantastic. I would ask you, by the way, if you do enjoy this, please help me by going to altnewsmedia.net/donate and dropping £1 or whatever it is in the hat, so to enable us to try and keep going ourselves, because this doesn't operate in fresh air. But most of all, thanks for being here, and hopefully I'll be back again tomorrow night, same time, and look forward to seeing you. Thanks, Jeanette, by the way, and Tony, and see you folks tomorrow night, same time. Take care.